Imagine what it's like to cross the safe threshold of home every day. And walk out onto the streets alone when you're just 9 years old. And yet every day little Zalasht must do this to keep hunger from the door. He may be the youngest and smallest in the family, but his mother, father and 4 siblings all depend on his ability to sell gum for $1 or $2 a day in order to get the daily bread. Fear is an ever-present shadow for the street kids of Kabul. For Zalasht, even more so. He carries a secret, one that puts him and so many others here in Afghanistan in grave danger. A darkness has fallen across this land, in the marketplace, on every street corner and thoroughfare, in the long stairs and lost faces of the people. This darkness is cast by the men in black turbans, bearing a white banner, clutching American-made weapons. For the last 12 months, the Taliban have ruled the country with a rod of iron. Tens of thousands fleeing the country, girls driven out of schools, women from workplaces, and growing numbers of children left to beg for scraps. Children like Zalasht. At just 9 years old, Zalasht carries the weight of the world on his slim shoulders, but he also bears a heavy secret. Because this little boy is, in fact, a girl. Zalasht is forced to hide who she is for her own safety. Zalasht, what is it like going out onto the streets? How is it scary? What's scary about it? And how did it feel having to cut your hair? Zalasht has no say in her world. Her mother can't work anymore after having a stroke, and her father can't earn enough to feed the family. It sounds like the tale from some Dickensian drama, but more than 60,000 children work on the streets of Kabul every single day. What you're witnessing is the slow unraveling of an entire country, from its youngest to the eldest. After US and allied troops withdrew in August of last year, and the Taliban seized power as the elected government collapsed, all of the country's overseas accounts frozen, blocking the Taliban's access to $9.5 billion of reserves, shrinking its economy by a third. Inevitably, the hardest hit have been the most vulnerable. 95% of Afghans no longer get enough to eat. Unemployment could reach 40% by the end of the year, while the prices of food and gas have soared by 50% in the last 12 months. Hunger now stalks this land, preying on the smallest of bellies. We've just come inside the main maternity and children's hospital inside Kabul. Bear in mind that this is the best funded, the best equipped hospital of its kind in Afghanistan. And even here, the need is overwhelming. There are only supposed to be 10 babies on this ward, but like every other room in the hospital, it's at double capacity, with many more waiting to be admitted. Is this a boy, a girl, little boy? He looks like he's malnourished, is that right? Yeah, he is. So how hard has it been to try and get him to get enough milk to keep it inside? Across Afghanistan, you'd be hard-pressed not to find the spectre of broken promises. With 20 years' experience as hardened fighters and almost none on how to run a country, the militants rule a nation that's spiralling out of control. It's not just the economy, but their own harsh restrictions. And consistently, the women and girls of this country are being impacted the most. But some refuse to accept this tyranny, with underground schools springing up in the country, a faint but glimmering light. We've come to the very outskirts of Kabul. Many girls, thousands and thousands of them, have been denied an education, and in defiance of Taliban orders, many of them have decided to set up their own schools. Many of the girls in the school we visited have to hide their schoolwork from their own fathers and brothers, some of whom are in the Taliban.
یعنی نمیتونیم درس بخونیم، نمیتونیم مکتب بریم. بازم یعنی فکر میکنیم شاید یعنی در آینده بتونیم. بازم یعنی امید داریم شاید یک روز مکتب دوباره باز شود. ما هم اجازه رفتن به کورس و مکاتب و غیره جا داشته باشیم، اما فعلا تعطیل نمیتونیم.
The Taliban made many promises during negotiations with the Trump administration. Some tried to sell the idea that this was a new, more moderate movement.
When I was here in August, I was with you at that very first press conference. And Zabihullah Mujahid told me, and you translated this, women will be afforded all their rights, whether it's at work or other activities. Women are a key part of society. We are guaranteeing their rights. Was that a lie?
Absolutely not.
So what happened?
Women are being given their rights. Each society interprets rights of human beings differently. For example, the United States recently, the US Supreme Court passed a law banning abortions. We disagree with that from a religious perspective, but at the end of the day, it is the sovereign choice of the United States of what laws it enacts. What we're asking for is the same level of respect when it comes to our sovereign choices in terms of the laws and regulations that we enact in our country.
But there's no evidence that the Taliban can be trusted to their word. In fact, all evidence over the last 12 months suggests the opposite. But where the men with guns have sought power and control, others are choosing a new path, one of hope, of beauty, and real strength. When I first met Layla Haidari last spring, she was running a restaurant staffed entirely by women, while also raising money for shelters for abused women. But when we met again last December, her world had been turned upside down. Her restaurant was closed down by the Taliban, and harsh new rules for women meant she'd been effectively confined to her home.
واقعا خوب نیستم. خوب نیست. به راحتی میتونستم آمریکا برم در روزای اول، اما چرا هنوز ماندم؟ چون با رفتنی از من فقط من نجات پیدا میکنم و این همه زن و کودک دیگه که میمانن اینا چی میشن؟
Layla turned those tears into purpose. And by the time we met again this month, her fight was back.
How are you?
Layla now runs a training centre where women learn English and trades like jewellery and sewing, all hidden behind closed doors, away from the eyes of the Taliban.
و خب امید زیادی وجود نداشت برای کار کردن و با اینکه مثلا امیال هم هر روز با من تماس میگیرن که تو باید از افغانستان خارج شوی، ولی برای من مهمه که دخترای من این همه امیدوار شدن و امیدوار به آینده شدن، کار یاد میگیرن، درس میخوانن، هنر یاد میگیرن و این باعث شده که من خوشحال باشم.
That is the situation in here. How is the situation outside?
خب ما همیشه در بین دو دن زندان در رفت آمد هستم، زندان خانه و زندان مرکز، و من بیرون نمیگردم که مثلا بیرون بگردم و بدونم که چی وضعیت هست. تلاشم میکنم که زیاد بیرون نباشم.
Layla's optimism burns bright in a land full of broken promises and lost dreams.
که از یک گل بهار نمیشه، اما باید تلاش بکنیم. باید امید را خلق کنیم. دخترای از من خیلی امیدوارن، خیلی با استعدادن. چرا درس نخوانن؟
What the Taliban haven't realized, but women like Layla know, what the girls with their secret books understand, is that Afghanistan has changed. And perhaps at a time of greatest darkness, these small flames of hope could light the way to a better tomorrow that Afghanistan so desperately needs.